Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining the Behind Company Lines podcast. Today we have Raffaele Colella, CEO of Mindmesh. Mindmesh is the virtual desk that puts you in control, centralized work, notes, to do, and meetings. Jump in an instance back with your team. And Raffaele, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really excited to chat with you. I know you've had a lot of success in your career and you've worked on products that really have a unique way to really bring people together and also bring information together. So I'm so fascinated to, jump into your background and your experience. But before we start all that, what were you doing before you started Mindmesh?
Well, first of all, Julian, thank you so much for having me. It's really fun having a chance to chat with you, join your community of founders. So, what was I doing before this? I was at Google. I was the product lead for the Google News app, the Android app,
Mhm.
and we did that during the relaunch that we did of Google News through Google I/O in 2018. So that was a lot of fun because we took an app. We didn't have many releases in
Yeah,
2017, and we get to rebuild it from the ground up at Google scale. So it was a large team with. I think at the end we had 6 designers, 14 engineers, and we
yeah,
got to prototype a lot. So there was an internal startup at Google. So it was a lot of fun. I did that, and then kept running with it for another couple of years. And then I wanted to do another startup because I did one few years ago, which actually brought me to Google because we were acquired there. And so I have bit the startup bug. And so I needed to go back to the founder spot.
I love that. What was about the product in the process? How was it different from building a startup? Then you went through this acquisition. How was the transition like? Going into a larger company like Google, and what was the impact of then having the resources that you had there? What were some of the benefits, and then also what were some things that maybe weren't so beneficial as moving to a large company? Sometimes you're met with some more barriers than with a startup. You can kind of just run forward until you crash, pick yourself back up, and continue on. But tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about the transition and what were some of the pros and
Yeah.
cons?
Yeah. I mean, in when it's a startup, it's almost there is no protection to
Yeah,
the world outside. It's like you're running on a scooter, and just a little tiny frame, and so you can explode your face, but you can also have you feel all the breeze on you, and so
yeah,
you talk with users directly. You go meet anybody you want. You are very much exposed. If you like, you can pivot. Everything that you have has an impact because in day to day, if you don't go to work, maybe lots of things are not happening. While when it's a
yeah,
big company, if you're not there for a couple of weeks, maybe people don't almost notice. Of course, your team is a bit different. So in a startup, you're really relevant. In a large company, necessary less. That's the first thing. On the other hand, a big company gives you that kind of stability. So sometimes it's good at a certain point in your career to have a moment where you can rest a moment and focus in things that are also very
yeah.
much in the big picture. Working on news at Google, especially in that time after fake news and so on, was super interesting. But then I needed to go back doing my own thing. Also, doing a startup internally there, it's really nice because you have, again, as I said, huge resources in market
Yeah.
research, in reach, and so on. On the other end, then, because you are part of a larger organization which has a lot of visibility and responsibility with the industry, the users, and so on, then there are a lot of, a red line that you cannot cross. While in the case of a startup, if you think about it, Facebook at its inception, and you try to few years
Right.
to keep this idea of let's break things. And a startup is always break things. Maybe, I don't have too many users. I can break, I can pivot all this way. I can do these other things. While in a
Yeah.
large company, you cannot do these kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's so fascinating. Looking back at your background, you built a company. I think it was Cannonball, right? That was taking information and bringing it into one centralized location for users. And then again with Mindmesh, it's kind of a similar concept. What is fascinating to you about kind of conceptualizing and kind of collecting a large bit of information and bring it into a
Well,
source? And also one thing, how do you keep your users from being overwhelmed by the information that you're collecting? Because I think for me, at least, it's great to have, a stream of newsletters in my inbox, but, after a certain amount, I I get information overload and it's difficult to cycle through what's important.
Interestingly enough, interfaces are UX is different depending on the country you are in. Japan is very minimalistic. In the Western world, we have a good balance. But when you look at places like maybe India, Southeast Asia, the UI it's a bit more noisy, or China. So there, the more the merrier, which is not the case for us. We tend to be a little bit overwhelmed. I think with interfaces, it's really finding that. That kind of right point of equilibrium where you're feeling that you are step by step you are discovering new things, and the media lends itself to expand your experience but not to overpower it, right?
Yeah.
And so it's also thinking how you go from the experience that we've understood for hundreds of years in the physical world, and now that thing changes because you are in digital, and the user get to experience that in a place where maybe there is also a lot of context switching with what are you seeing beyond your screen. Maybe if you are in a mobile phone, what are you doing while you are looking at that app? And so I think it's intellectually, it's very interesting and intriguing. That's why I wanted to do that in the last 15 years of my life,
Yeah.
Not the last 15 years, but in the last 15 years.
Yeah. What's the process to finding that equilibrium?
I think, well, there is a lot always a user research trying to understand, speaking a lot with user and understands what are their problems, and also how do they do things normally. I think that's another interesting point of view. Once I took, I heard about this concept about lead user, and basically there is this academic of entrepreneurship. Like now, his name is Eric von Ippel. He's 80 years old. He's super famous. And basically, he shows that the majority of the products that they then are commercialized by some company, in reality, they already existed because they've been hacked by somebody. And so you can see it in extreme sports, but you can also see it in, I don't know, in very complex machinery that even in healthcare, that somebody hacked together because the wife needed that kind of treatment on the lungs, and this was an engineer with acoustic background and so on. And for what we are building, for example, we spoke with hundreds of people in product and not only. And so we try to see, okay, what are your problems in this all context switching, all these jarring notification between all these application, between Slack, all the meetings that you have, all the places that you run around and so on. But how do you do things right now? Like, how did you hack the system for yourself? And so trying to find also the best practices of the users gives you a lot of idea. And I think that helps in finding that equilibrium, like what does make sense for people.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the piece of user research. I think is what makes a lot of companies successful. A lot of products, products that are extremely effective on what they target to do. Or
at least it gives us ideas. No, then there were geniuses like Steve Jobs who say we don't need to ask, we know, but in our case, we are more like humans, so we need to ask the users a lot.
Yeah. I love that. Well, being that you work in both, European and US markets, what are some of the differences selling into both that you've seen in your experience? And also is there a large difference in the types of users, or are they very similar markets? Curious about your personal experience, building and growing and selling into both markets.
I think in the US, people are in business, they are much more direct. And so while in France, in Europe, in general, in France, there is a bit more of things they need to come together because of maybe, I don't know well how to articulate this, but it's the relationship. It's not, sometimes it's not immediate. It's changing a lot because there is a new breeze of, newer company and startups which are becoming scale ups in most European countries. But the velocity and the dynamism it's picking up, but often it's not the same. In the
Yeah.
US, its generation has been like that. While in Europe, you still find a lot of companies that maybe they are not. They've never been like that because they were born in a bit of a different digital era. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Kind of both economic and I'm assuming the velocity of technology can influence the the impact, or I guess the speed at which a lot of these companies built. I'm curious in terms of Mindmesh. Tell us a little bit more about what the product does, who your target audience is, and how it's able to solve the problem that it aims to solve.
Yeah. So basically, the product wants to give you the big picture of like everything that matters to you and that you need to focus on. And so we started like um, centralizing the work wherever it comes from. It could be the Slack notification, it could be the meeting notes, it
Yeah.
could be the email that you don't have time to, or set comments from Drive or Jira or Notion. And because you have this big picture, then you are able to quickly triage and decide what I'm going to work right now, what I want to snooze for later, what I maybe need to block time for, and at that point you can focus, you can make sure that basically you are in line with what you should be doing. And so you focus on today, but then you zoom out, you see what you actually. Let me super quickly give you a demo here. I'm gonna
Yeah.
share
Yeah.
my screen. I dialed in from the old continent, right? And
Yeah.
so I typed the collection. But basically, this is my mesh. You see, my mesh, there is this desk. This is my today, the way stuff comes in today. It's either because you create a new card, and so basically I say, for example, I don't know, review PRD, or maybe you look at your calendar, which is here, and so this is our conversation, and so you can drag the event in and you start to create notes, right?
Oh,
And
sick.
so Julian, blah blah, maybe you tell me to I don't know, review designs because you give me an idea, and so I can turn this
Yeah.
into a to-do. And so this becomes a new card, and the new card will be here. This is my inbox. And the way things also make it to the inbox is because you clip them in. So for example, let's go into my Gmail, and I have a video from Loom. I'm not gonna look at it right now, but I can send it to my desk, right? And so
Yeah.
my desk, which is basically here, you see you have your Gmail, or this could be the same coming from Slack or anywhere. And so you can either decide to work on this thing right now, and so it goes into the center of your desk, or you can snooze it for any time in the next coming days, or actually you can even schedule it on calendar. And so let's say that I want to work on this thing after our call, I put it here, and it syncs with my Gmail calendar all the time. So this is what I'm going to be doing today. And then if I want to zoom out, I have the view you see on my week. So this
Yeah.
is my calendar, and these are all the things that I snoozed and so on. And you can move them around, you can schedule it another day, you can and so basically this is, and then when you want to review the process that you are doing, basically this is a bit of a GitHub kind of view when you say, okay, these are all the cards
Yeah.
that you completed every day, and so on. And then you have these sideboards where basically you organize content. And so these are a little bit like some Kanban boards, and so this is one of the people who work here in the team, and so these are all the things that he's been working on. And this is pretty much my mesh.
Yeah. What in the things organized on the side of the mesh are those different projects? Like, is that more project
Yeah.
scope? Yeah. And are you
Yeah.
collaborate with other team members on those projects, and kind of we all kind of
Yes.
in updates? Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've been dog fooding in collaboration inside for a long time, and also in beta with, some users, and we'll start to open it up possibilities in the coming weeks to, have shared views, collaborate on cards, share this stuff to others, assign tasks, because a very interesting use case, for example, actually, I'll share it again, is when you are in, when you are in meeting notes, right? Because you see, let's assume that so this is an action items of our meeting review design. Let's assume that we are in the same team, and so in this case I could assign you, right, this thing. So let's say that, for example, you were Jeremy, and now this would go in your inbox, and you say that I assigned you to do this thing. And so this is a very good way, because often, stuff is slipping through the crack and it's written in different
Yeah.
documents and it dies then. While in this case, when in my mesh you elect to convert something into a new task,
Yeah.
it brings it up in information hierarchy. And so those are the kind of things in the equilibrium of design that we are discussing that,
Yeah.
are those touches that make sure that you are solving people problems, because one of the problem of people
Right.
is not to write stuff down, but it's the recall. Is that where
Yeah.
are those things? How do stuff? How the dots that I paint in Elastic, how do they connect?
Yeah.
So my mesh helps you connecting thing, putting context back together, and it's a big journey, and we're super excited about it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like a lot of companies who, work on products that collect a lot of information and put it into a centralized place, they go one of two ways. And I'm curious on which way you are aiming to go. One is that they start creating their own kind of suite of, whether it's documents, technology, or other project tracking tools, rather than, right now where I think yours is right in between, which is like creating a certain suite of like project management tools, but also integrating a lot of information like calendar, which is, I think we all have headaches on keeping track of information on our calendar, especially adding events. The fact that it was so quickly, easily to add events from your task list to your calendar, I think for me, that was pretty exciting. Cause I know how difficult that is for me. But what way are you kind of focusing on going in regards to the technology? Are you looking to start creating a suite of I guess, features or software that are going to be built into Mindmesh, or do you
Mhm.
want to continue growing the expansion of collaborating with different tools?
The second, the
Yeah.
the latter, because startups need to focus. For us, there is no need to reinvent the wheel. If there
Yeah.
are things that Google Docs does great, people should use Google Docs, or if
Yeah.
I know they like use their Notion and so on. But what this application miss in a way, it's giving people the overview, the big picture. And
Yeah.
that's what we want. We want to be the connector. In a way, want to be like this intelligence that it's finding users wherever they are. And so there is this possibility. You see, there was that blue button in Gmail that you click and it's there, then it can become
Yeah.
more automated. But there's this layer that basically is accompany you in the different application. You do your work
Yeah.
there, but then goes to a place that you can see. And so, for example, if I can give you another example here, if I go back to sharing, and now this is my Google Calendar, right? And you
Right.
see, this is our event, and this is the card that I created. So you see the card that we
Yeah.
had in my mesh, which is this card here, he carried over there. And so it's this stuff that you can enter in and out of
Yeah.
the system, and it doesn't matter where you do work, because that could have been started Google Calendar, that you find it there. And so it becomes a bit like your brain is the place where you make sure that yes, you're back, because you can download your thoughts. One famous methodology, Get Things Done, he says that the brain is not made to hold information, but more to think, to conceptualize, to innovate, and so on. And so you need a place where you
Yeah.
can write stuff down, where you know that your things are. And so my mesh tries
Yeah.
to mimic, to map all your connection between the events and so on, to make you go faster and to be more productive.
Yeah, I love that saying. I don't know where that came from, but yeah, if you remember where that came from, that's fascinating. Where the brain is kind of an area where you creatively think, you abstract, and then the storage of that information to really progress and continue to think should be somewhere else. That's fascinating. I think one founder told me a long time ago to use Evernote to keep a lot of the information, maybe journaling somewhere centralized that I didn't have to actively always recall that information. And it's been super helpful in having a more free to abstract mind. And so, it's incredible how your technology is so smoothly integrating and
Yeah.
capturing information, and then also, able to move that information freely, kind of like an organism in a body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you like the Evernote of the words, they've been pioneers, because they've been the first application for individual productivity
Yeah.
outside the workplace, that were dedicated to help
Yeah.
individuals, keep track and so on. Actually, I did I had some relationship with Evernote with my first company because we were an email client. And so Evernote reached out because they wanted to integrate with all email clients because they want people are creating content and they want to backfill it. It needs to go there. Now,
Yeah.
what Mindmesh does, it takes, if you like, the best practices that of the Evernote, of the Todoist, of all those applications which are very solid, but they're very much anchored in the personal productivity and brings them to the workplace so that,
Yeah.
you know, knowledge workers can, we really care a lot about their individual workflow. Now,
Yeah.
little by little, we also want to start to connect them with their colleagues. And so helping them cruise across the stack of application that they
Yeah.
use, Slack, Gmail, Notion, Drive, Figma, Miro, and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about the traction that you're seeing. How many users are using your product? What are some kind of reviews and benefits that your user has expressed that have helped them, whether it's a number or whether it's just anecdotes? Tell us a little bit about, who is using your product, what's their experience like, and what are some positive benefits that your users have expressed to you as a company?
Yeah. So in terms of users, we think that by the end of the year, we will surpass Notion and maybe double them. No,
Wow.
I'm joking.
Oh.
There was a joke. No, so we launched in Product Hunt 6 months ago. We were, the product of the day, second product of the week. And so we saw a lot of traction, early traction from, these early adopters, like productivity thing and so on. And we still have a lot, and we discover many every day discover us. And so we have an early community, and it's very rewarding because this is a product that people use all the time. It's not, this is something that sometimes I tell to people that maybe we discuss to come work with us and so on. This is not a banking app that you use once or twice. This is a really product that you use all the
Yeah.
time. And that's one of the exciting things about building this thing is that you dog food it all the time. Like
Yeah.
I use it probably 6-7 hours a day. And these are the kind of usage that we see from our engaged user. And so a lot of people saying that, I'm a kind of disorganized person and this is helping me keeping track.
Yeah.
It's the place that I start trusting with my thoughts and so on. And so that's kind of really cool. I think we are finishing soon this first phase of, understanding the individual use case. We're getting very deeper in some redesign, and we're launching a 2.0 super shortly. And so then at that point, there will be 2023 going, attacking the entire world. That's a bit the plan,
Love
team
that.
collaboration and a number of different, business proposition.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest challenges that you face today?
I would say that one thing is, when people come in, basically it's having understood the mix of the acquisition, so the mix of the audience coming in. Of course, organic is always very,
Yeah.
it's there is always like a very nice continuity, and we feel good about that. But we are starting to put much more content out there to
Yeah.
really educate user and so on. And so it's really like saying the people who come in, that they are not tourists, but the people that they understand that they have the need for the product and the point. And so
Yeah.
we're starting to build that pipeline of content out there for that. And also we have been changing very recently. Actually, we are launching it tomorrow, a new tutorial heavily inspired by Superhuman that I think I've been some kind of pioneer in doing slick things and so on. And so those are certain areas where we still need to do improvements, but I think we're improving and very excited about also the pipeline there.
Yeah.
And then, it will be all the product-led growth kind of a journey that we are at the beginning of that. And so there will be a discovery. There is a lot of literature out there. Companies are doing it, and it's really interesting. And we'll see. We ask many people to collaborate with others, but this is something that we're start doing right now. And so it will be exciting to see how people use the product and so on. When we put it out 6 months ago on Product Hunt, was made for product managers in our
Yeah.
mind, but then it started to be used by a lot of people who were not in product because they had the same context switching
Yeah.
problematics. They all wake up in the morning, they had all these notifications Slack, and then they need
Yeah.
to run to a meeting and then to another meeting. And if you don't prepare this meeting in advance, you're gonna get killed because at some point you cannot hold those information here. And
Right.
then at some point, as soon as you think you can catch some breath, there is something which is exploding. Could be a P0 in Jira or something else, and so on. And
Yes.
so those people, it turns out, they are not only product manager, but they are engineering managers, they are
Yeah.
people in ops, there are people in marketing, and so on. And so the use of Mindmesh became much more horizontal that we were thinking. And so now we'll be excited about start to connect these people and do stuff together.
Incredible. Yeah. And I love how the use case is really growing and branching out into, all the different, I guess, stakeholders and teams, right? Which is ultimately we want to come to a consensus or a location that we can all collaborate and get things done together, because it is hard amongst all the platforms to keep track of information, but also to execute and complete that information and know that it's completed, which is some of the challenges even, my team faces as well. If everything goes well, what's the long-term vision for the product?
I think there is a space for a large company in this, in what we are trying to build, that it's really a connector of all these applications because, uh, and so we aspire in becoming the company. I think our DNA is very strong. Our company culture is strong. The co-founding team, at least the other hand, not say myself, but it's very strong. No, we have a very good early team, and I think we are having fun. And so we have a shot in, you know, going above and beyond, and that's what we are working for. We have great investors who helped us from the beginning. So we are building everything with the mindset of trying to be, I don't know, a Tesla of productivity or an Apple of productivity, like a very good company. And we'll see. Startups are always a journey. I already did one, and there are journeys, but we're very excited. We learn a bit from the best. We did Y Combinator. We also did another program in Europe, Entrepreneur First, which is super interesting. And and so we are playing day by day and getting our hands dirty and fighting the good fight.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I always like to ask this question for both inspirational resources for myself, but also for my audience. Whether it was throughout your career or currently now, what books or people have influenced you or are currently influencing you right now?
People who have influenced me. I would say it's more people who I met directly than people I read about.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna tell you I know Steve Jobs or something like that, even though, of course, you have those kind of models, and those are like some meteors, like some stars that they go in the sky. I would say, when I was, for example, I did my MBA at MIT. There were a few professors with whom I stayed in touch, with whom I actually worked also as investor, that they've been very, like one with our board and our lead angel. His name is Ed Roberts, has been one of the first academic entrepreneurship. He's the first investor in HubSpot and a number of companies like those. And the guy has seen a lot of things around the block. So that is somebody who's been always a mentor and a coach for me. But then also I would say the peers that I had in my class at the time, many of which did startups, and so we brought them together, and we still talk to each other. And today I would say, I just spent so much time discussing with my co-founder, and I think we learned from each other, and we disagree with each other, but because of those disagreements, things gets better, because it's a very positive tension in coming up with a result that is better what you thought alone very often. And so I think I also learned from him.
Yeah, I love that. I learned a lot from my co-founder as well, and it is a little bit of friction in those relationships, but it's also it's always so purposeful because it's never about the individual, it's about the company and the entity, and it's like that philosophy and that goal.
And
Right.
you're super invested and you think about that all day long. And,
Yeah.
this is my second startup and a number of co-founders. Like you think about that thing all the time. So
Yes.
it's normal. It's like a marriage. There is some
Yeah.
friction and so on. But if, you have trust and, it's not only trust, but also you recognize that that
Yeah.
person is very good at what he does and so on. I think, even when you think that they are wrong or they've been wrong in something, then you look at the big picture and you realize it's
Yeah.
still a pretty good deal to work with them.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Well, Raffaele, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so excited to share this with my audience and really tap into the Mindmesh tool. I definitely gonna download it myself to really organize my my disorganized. I realize how many things don't cooperate within my process. So I hope the audience can use it as well. But last bit is, where can we find you? Where can we be support for the vision, the product? Give us your website, your LinkedIn's, your Twitters. Where can we be a part of Mindmesh and the vision that you're pushing towards? Yep.
So mindmesh.com, this website is being redesigned a lot, but it's gonna stay the same address.
Mhm.
And then if you go on Twitter, mindmesh.com, that's where you really can get started. Is me, Raf_COL. And then this is Mindmesh app, which is our handle. Follow us, stay in contact. But again, mindmesh.com is where you want to start your journey, basically.
Incredible. Well, thank you so much, Raffaele, for being on the show, giving us your journey through, multiple startups, and also, identifying ways that you're helping kind of create an ecosystem where people can be productive. And I hope you enjoyed yourself. And again, thank you for being on the show. Of
It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for having me, Julian.
course.